My name is Master Raven Mayne. I am from the Kingdom of Aidenbelt. I am a Laurel, and majority of my time in the SCA I've done mostly scribbles, so that's what I've done for decades. Somewhere between what we call the middle aughts, probably like 2007, 2008-ish. I went to a demo that my friends were having at one of the libraries, and she brought a laptop. And on that laptop was a DVD that she had just gotten from England when she went there on holiday. And it had a whole bunch of segments of full achievements, all on a DVD, like all separated in what I'll get into the class about the different elements. And for the demo, what she was doing was, you could walk, you can go up to her and she'd say, what would you like your full achievement to look like? And she would go through all the whole entire process, and she would make it for you, and she'd print it out for you. And that's something that you had for the demo, and everybody else that came. That kind of hooked me and my wife into really being interested in full achievements. And then a few years later, I started making banners for people with their full achievements, and that's what I've been doing for the last 10 or 12 years or something like that. I also been painting a lot on clothes and everything that had to do with paint. I was painting. So this class will just go through the different elements of a full achievement. There's a few things that I will say over and over again to this, just to make sure that it's kind of understood, is that me and my wife do full achievements for those in the SCA. My wife is also a Laurel in costuming, but neither one of us are heralds. Even though I've done almost everything a herald can do, I've never done it in an official capacity. So the heraldic language is not something that we are proficient in. So when we design full achievements, we're doing it from artistic eye. So how we assemble them and how we get them is obviously through sumptuary and everything, and regulations in our kingdom. We use the ones that are reserved by the society. So we start with all that, but once we get those things done, we go into what the actual person wants for their full achievement. Majority of full achievement guidelines in every kingdom is different. So you have to, before you design one in your kingdom, in your area, check and see what you can and cannot have. Because that is some kingdoms have absolutely nothing. You can do whatever you want, and some kingdoms have almost full page manual on specifics on depending on what awards you have and things like that, what titles you can put on there and things. So you have to be really, really careful. So that's what I'll say whenever we get into. Definitely check your kingdom of what you can and can have. But I'm just going to show the elements and how me and my wife kind of go through designing full achievements for individuals. So let me share the screen real quick. This class is for all achievements, coat of arms, designs for SCA Artists or from an artisan eye. And this class was put together by me and my wife, Mistress Turrel. And we're both in between. So that we do, even though I've done full achievements for people all over the world, we start from the sumptuaries here, and then we kind of work our way depending on where the banner that I'm doing, which is usually 2 feet by 2 feet roughly, depending on the design that I come up with. So again, your kingdom, what your kingdom lets you have, or what you can and can have on your full achievements. The research that I've done a couple years ago is that every kingdom actually has, design, when they have guidelines usually, or in sumptuary or whatever it is in your specific area, obviously have what you can and cannot have. But what I tried to do and learn very quickly that's not easy is I was going to try and have links of each kingdom and try and help you out of where you can find these in your local area. But if you know a majority of how those things happen, websites, come and go, links go, haywire. So that's why I stopped doing that. But every kingdom, you're going to have to search and find out where your kingdom, or ask your kingdom herald or whoever to find out what you can and cannot have. What I also found out is a lot of the guidelines were meant for when you do scrolls or for an award. So what they can and cannot have an award. Usually they don't really talk about where you can put them anywhere else or specifically, but most of them were specifically meant for when that person got an award, what they could have as a full achievement. But these are just two that the kingdoms have for their full achievements for their kingdoms. So Heraldic Achievement, Coat of Arms, SCA Arms. Again, we are not heralds, so that's not how we put things together. Put it together from an artist and eye, and we like to create and be inspired by the items of our SCA friends and what our clients or people that want full achievements from us would like personally. The heraldic device display of items chosen to represent person. So everything that's on the heraldic device, everything that your heraldic device has, is meaning for you, obviously, because that's what you submitted, that's what you got passed. So we use that as inspiration, among other things. SCA achievement, full depiction of heraldic items a person is titled to. Again, whatever your kingdom sanctuary or specific says you cannot have on your full achievement when you make one. Historical achievement or coat of arms is used to show personal or family affiliations. So you can actually go and find historical representations of historical or full achievements throughout history. Most of the ones that I found initially were ones that were carved in stone, but they're all over when you start to search for them. So when we start, I have a Google form that we send to everybody who wants a full achievement, and it just asks for the basic things that a full achievement has, and then we kind of work from there. And we come up with a rough draft of what the details that they wanted. So on the left of your screen is what all of those are heraldic items, historical items that they've had, mostly in the era in England, is where the DVD comes from. So, well, take that back. That's where our friends got it, but it actually is Canadian. So, but all of the items and that's on the DVD are on the left. And this is what we would give somebody as a rough draft. This is just generally what we would give them and show them. Obviously, we would tell them to ignore all the colors, because on the DVD, everything's colored, nothing's in black and white line drawing. So not to worry about that. But if you can see on the left side of, or what we call a supporter of the full achievement, is the historical depiction of a monkey. We think it looks more like a weasel. So what we did is the one on the right is the one that I eventually painted and we designed and painted. We found a better monkey. So we found one that's a little bit, nicer and actually looks like a monkey. The only thing we didn't do is with the chain. It seems like a lot of the animals that we do find are chained up. So that could be for many reasons, but we also decided to put a better cat. The one on the one left is okay cat, but we thought we'd find one that's a little more cute, I guess. But this is just an example of where we start and then where we end up. Heraldic Achievement or coat of arms for SCA Artists. That's how we design everything. So these are just some of the things that we go through, and I will go through these as through the PowerPoint, but we're just going to bring them up now. These are Heraldic Achievement. So we start with your device. Everything centers around your device. So whatever you got passed, I usually leave that unshaded, unadorned, very, very specific of what your device got passed. Sometimes with whoever we're doing it for, we do have some artistic license if they wanted, don't go too far out of what we got passed, but that usually stays static. So, and then we go into the shield shape. They have helms. Not all have helms. Again, you have to check your kingdom whether you can have a helm and where it goes. Crests go on top of the helms. Supporters, usually we try and stick with living items, but that's just our personal guidelines when we do things. There's torse, there's mantling, compartment base, motto, and then there's add-ons, which are these little things of, as we'll get into, of certain awards or certain people that had symbols that you can have represented on your full achievement somewhere, besides one of the things I just listed. We have SCA options, obviously, so we stick with what society reserves. So if you don't have a peerage, or you haven't been if you're not don't have a baronial coronet or a county, or obviously we don't put those on your no matter what, we don't put those on your full achievement if you don't have those. And then when we look at design, we want balance. So we want everything to look like it's framed. So it has, as I'll get into, there's compartment base, supporters, everything, mantling, everything is centered around your device or the device. So we're trying to make everything balanced, both sides, top and bottom, left and right. And the size, we try to make sure everything is compatible or aesthetically pleasing, which I'll say over and again, overall. So when you're designing your whole entire thing of your full achievement, you want everything to look nice, so not as complicated. And when we deal with colors, when we start with the colors, obviously every device, and we kind of work our way out and make sure that everything, we try and make sure that all the colors complement your device and everything that's on it. The first where we start is the shield shape, and many of the items that we're going to go through, there are so many choices. So majority of people revert to just doing the shield shape that we all use when we submit our device, and then we all use. But there are many shields out there, shield shapes out there. Throughout the centuries, there's all kinds of different things. And a lot of these that were on full achievements in history that have different things. The one thing that is available to the ladies is to have a lozenge. So you don't have to have a shield. You can have a lozenge if you want, which is really nice too. So, but again, there's a lot of shield shapes. You can have a ton of different kinds of shields out there. And this is just a small sampling of what shields you can choose.
Can I say something about the lozenge?
Sure.
For women, make sure they check their heraldry on a lozenge if that's what they're wanting, because I can't use one with mine.
Yeah, we've noticed that some shapes are really hard to get your SCA device on there. But the one thing we haven't done, but it has been done historically, is when the shapes change from a shield, when you're doing like a banner or something else, you can use, as long as you use the charges or the selected items and the colors that are on your shield, as long as they're displayed that way historically, it's still, even though they're not like in chief or in different sections when you have on a shield, but you can't have, as long as it's on there, it still represents you. So, but not a lot of people do that. So these are helms. Helms, again, just like everything else, it's got different shapes, sizes, designs on it. When you look through your kingdom, they may have what color it can be. They can have which way it's facing, whether you can even have a helm. So it's a lot of, like I said, where it depends on where you are and how detailed specifically they can, what you can and can have. When we do full achievement banners, we also do things for those with a Norse persona. Obviously, they would have full achievement banners, but we do try and accommodate that by finding, like, again, a Viking helm or something that would, denote that it's Norse when we're doing the designing. And the helmet's the best way to do that, because it's a lot of focus and a lot of detail you can put on one thing. But helms, there's tons of helms out there, and so when you're trying to pick and choose a helm, there are a lot out there. What we use our helms sometimes as a crest. So A lot of times when we're doing ones for peers or being elevated to a peer, we'll use it for putting like cap of maintenance. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we'll put a pelican, like you said, in the center there where it's pelican that had cooped. Or sometimes, most of the time, we put a nest on top of the helm with the babies and the pelican, something that we all kind of see in the pelican and the piety. But we use this as an addition. So when we're helping design full achievement, when someone gives us a list of things that they want on their full achievement, this is one of the areas that you can easily add that third piece. Historically, most of these crests were one of the charges or one of the things that you have under SCA device normally. So if you have a moon or an animal, whatever, those are usually the ones that go on top of a crest. But there's the two, and again, check your sumptuary and your laws and what you can have. And for this, you don't have to have a helm, unless I guess it says you have to have one, but I don't think you do. At least I haven't run across it, but you can have other things like on the right hand side is a unicorn, just the head on top, and on the left is for me and my wife's household, so we just put a sun behind it. But you don't have to have a helm, as you'll see I think with some of the examples that I'll get to describing. There's a Taurus and mantling that you can just have on top of your helm, but you don't have to have a helmet when you're designing it. These are samples of some supporters. So supporters are usually representing, it could be your significant other, it could be your friends, it could be your mentor, it could be your kids, a relative, it could be just someone that in the SCA that inspired you, it could be just an animal that you like. So we try out when we're talking to people that want full achievements, we try and get that kind of information because we want full achievement to mean as much to the person as possible. The one thing we really try and do is two things. We try and make sure that they're living. We feel that supporters should be living items, whether it's a tree or mythical like Pegasus, or obviously, actual creatures like hawks or fish or bunnies, whatever. So, and we try and make them face the shield. It's not always easy. We have done them facing different directions. Historically, they have faced all different directions, but if we can, we try and manage to make sure that the supporters face the device. The other thing that we try and do is we try and work towards having supporters that could theoretically be the same size. It just kind of throws everything off when they're not, as you can see with one of the screen, the sample with the bunny and the Pegasus. It kind of feels, off and unbalanced. So we try and encourage them to pick supporters that are, even if it's a hawk and a Pegasus, we think, roughly when you're looking at them with your eye, you can kind of, imagine that they're close to the same size and it doesn't look off. I have added things in the past to try and balance that out, like poles, like flags and different banners and stuff to try and even it out. But we're trying to stick to things that are living. But I've done at least one other ones that were columns, but he had a Roman or gladiator persona, so we kind of make that, but it looked good. But you can pick anything, especially humans and different things like that. So once you pick your supporter, depending on what it is, you can pick its stance. So they're all usually people choose rampant, only because then all of their appendages or anything or whatever you're picking is literally in support of the shield of the device. So, but as you can see, here's just a sample of some of the stances that you can have, or some of the positions you can have. Again, we try to pick something that looks like they're actually literally holding your shield up. So, but when it comes to birds, you can do the wings up, wings down, You know, claws up, claws down. We have done them where they're actually in a tree and still supporting everything. So, but there's a lot of different positions you can have your supporters in. This is another thing where torse and mantling. Torse is the braided fabric that you can see there in the center. And usually the mantling is attached to it. So normally what they would do is the braided bit would be the item that's sitting on top of the helm, and then the mantling would be attached, obviously, to the mantling would be attached to the torso, and it would all be in colors of the as whatever the device is. So we would, usually it's 2 colors, but I have seen where they do multiple colors. And there's lots of different mantling out there that you can choose from. We try, because there are so many, what we do when we're inquiring about what somebody wants, we usually go to, do you like feathers? Do you like fabric? Do you like leaves? So we kind of try and get those and kind of narrow it down from there, because there's so many different shapes and stuff like that. The one thing we both found out when we're tracing these things is if these mantling was actual mantling, sometimes the twists and turns don't quite match what color is on one side and what color is supposed to be on the other. We've noticed that in a couple of different things, and it's kind of odd. We're not 100% sure why it does that. But yeah, there's lots and lots of different mantling that you can choose from. This is just a small sample of what you can have out there. But again, depending on what your kingdom lets you or what you can and can have, and also you don't have to have either one of these. But this kind of helps kind of fill out the space when you're doing a full achievement. The compartment or base, which you don't necessarily have, but kind of helps when you're trying to frame everything in. So as you can see here, we have supporters on both sides. The helm, there's no torso, but there's mantling, and we have just grounded grass. This is how we look at things and make sure that they're aesthetically pleasing, as we have everything surrounding the device and it frames the device. So that's why we choose the things we choose to, or try and get to be able to put around somebody's device. And a compartment or a base, depending on who you talk to, could be anything. It could be clouds, it could be a stage, it could be filigree, it could be a ribbon, anything that considers to be what everything is setting on. So there's lots of different choices for that too. What we have done in the past too is we will split the compartment of the base. What I mean by that is, for example, if they had a Pegasus on one side and maybe a dolphin on the other, what we would do is we put like dirt or grass on one side, and then in the middle would be a transition, and it had like waves on the other with the dolphin coming out of the water. So you can split up the base depending on your supporters. You can also have a castle wall is another idea you can have, which there's quite a few that you could choose from. You have everything sitting on the castle wall. We don't make them actually look like they're, like the castle wall is actually the actual size and make everything small. We just use it as a compartment, so it looks similar to, as you can see here, with the stage on the right and the filigree on the left. We use it around that same size, so I'll try and show you an example maybe later. But yeah, anything that kind of helps frames everything in, and the base could be any number of things. A banner is another idea that we put on the we put on the bottom of everything. You don't have to have a banner. It's just an option. The reason we do a banner is to put the person's motto if they have one. It's easier to put a motto on some sort of ribbon. Sometimes I can. I have put like a pole with like a banner hanging from it, and I would put their motto on that sometimes. But when you're using when you're using like a banner for this instance for mottos, again, with everything else, there are so many different options that they can go different directions and have different shapes and sizes and everything else. The only issue that I run into is trying to get the motto as soon as possible, because when I've done a banner that's, you know, the length of the full achievement and they have like a motto that's 2 words or a word, that's a little hard to fill that area. So I really try and get a motto if they have one in advance, so that way we can put a banner down there that they like, that we could put the entire motto on. So I have made them so far. I've been very lucky in being able to make them fit, but that's something to consider when you're doing it. I don't think these are regulated when it comes to guidelines, but always check. This is the sample of add-ons, and add-ons are other than what I've already discussed with the certain elements of a full achievement. These are just other things that we like when we get a list of things that somebody wants on their full achievement or like on their full achievement. We try and figure out a place to put it so it still looks, again, aesthetically pleasing when you're looking at it. So depending on what it is, you can see there's what I would call a raven in the center holding an arrow. So that would be an option if they were an archer. So we would include that without actually having to add a bow, an archer, a quiver like that. You can be able to just add something simple like that just to represent that their interest in archery. On the left, we have like a laurel wreath. So if there were a laurel, we can just have that as simple as someone holding a laurel wreath or having the laurel wreath somewhere else. It doesn't have to. We know when we picture, when many people picture peerage and stuff like that I'm about to get to, you always go for, obviously the thing we all recognize. But when it comes to a full achievement, you can place it wherever you would like. We also do, if somebody wants to represent their household or their barony, or their kingdom in another way, we can have the supporters, like again, holding it. You can see there with the line, we can have the device on there, or maybe their significant others, the device, we could put that on a flag and a banner on there. So we've on occasion put things on there that are not historically or SCA related. Like you can see in the bottom right hand corner that has a device for part, I think it's for the Mandalorian. And we're gonna put that on someone's full achievement. But things like that, when you have symbols and stuff like that, you can put anywhere and it doesn't really throw anything off. So we try and stick to everything as much as possible, but whatever we can do and however we're working it. But we can do that. This we kind of put together to try as an example of what we try not to do. As you can see there in the middle, there's a pitcher and a basin representing the kitchen sink. So we basically we try not to have everything that the person wants on there. Though we will attempt to, we have on occasion really encourage someone to, have a little less. The reason being is when you first see this, you really don't know where to look. There's so many things to look at. We don't want to do or create like an example like a Where's Waldo kind of thing, or make it a puzzle where you're trying to figure out what things are and why things are there. And what ends up happening is you lose some sort of aspect of it, so you may not get a proper meeting of what the person would like to express. So we try not to include everything somebody wants, and just try and get the bare minimums of the basic things that mean the most. So we really try not to do everything, tons of things, because it looks hectic and kind of a mess in a sense. Obviously, we have SCA options. So if you're a peer of the society, we try and figure out how to add those to the full achievement, whether it's ducal coronet or county or bi-county or laurel, pelican, knight, MOD. We try and find a place to put the elements somewhere. Again, they don't have to be the normal elements of whatever, as long as they can, the symbol is somewhere on there. What we do a lot actually is if they're a pelican, we do one for a pelican. We do one that has a pelican wearing a hat of maintenance. We usually have one of the supporters with a hat of maintenance on. So that's just one of the options, many options that you can have if you're able to have, if these are SCA reserved, obviously things that you can have on the full achievement. There's nothing that says that creating a full achievement is able to be updated, because most of them are put on things historically, like I said, in stone or on different banners and things like that. So they probably weren't, but we have noticed that when we do full achievements for individuals, and then they eventually get like a peerage or stuff like that for when we do the banners, is that we're able to add those items in later. For example, the one on the left are dual full achievements that you could do. The Lord for this one, for him and his lady, he recently got elevated to the laurel, so I added the laurel wreath around his device and gave it back to him. But it could have gone around, could have went around the dragon's head. It could have went obviously around the supporters. The one on the right is one of our friends that got elevated to the pelican. So on the top, you can see that it's just what we got with his cats on the very bottom sleeping. But he got elevated to the pelican, so we ended up taking it back, been able to easily put the pelican on there. So it's real. Most of the time, it's real once they've been elevated, or if they've rained or anything like that. It seems to be most of the time I haven't run into too many problems to be able to update it. But again, this is for banners that I do. Obviously, you probably wouldn't do this for a scroll, but if you did them anywhere else, it seems that most full achievements have the option to eventually even take these little additions on there. So, okay, I'm gonna stop sharing this, but if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them now. I was gonna show some of the ones that I've done in the past. Again, what I do for before I share the stuff that I do is I use acrylics with what's called a paint medium. It's usually 1 part medium to 2 parts paint. We use just regular craft paint. The medium is something that you add to paint to make sure that it stays flexible. So when I do banners, you don't want it to get stiff and crack, potentially fall off. So the medium kind of helps it soak into the fabric and still remain flexible to be able to use it on banner. Or what I've done also is paint clothes and things like that. And I usually use a heavyweight fabric. Usually, sometimes, mostly a drill cloth is what I use. But that's what I do all day long, is I paint full achievements for people. So I'm really lucky that I was able to do that for individuals. These are just some of the ones that I've done. This is just my photo album of the full achievements I've done over the past years that I mentioned. I've done now 104 of them, and I have them all, like I said, I mentioned earlier, all over the world. So I have some in Sweden, some in England, I have some in Locac, and all over the United States so far. So when I first started designing this, we went for our Eden belt rules, but over time we had to make sure that we'd have wherever they were heading to. They were going. We have not heard of anybody having any issues when they move kingdoms. Like I said, majority of kingdoms that have rules or regulations on this are usually for scrolls, and if not, so far we haven't had anybody really. I mean, if you're a peer, obviously, or if you're not a peer and you're trying to do something like that, obviously there's going to be a very big problem. But if you stick to the rules that's stated by the society and the guidelines that are stated by what you can have, usually it's pretty good. So this one in particular, if I can do it, I put these little things that you have to find. If the opportunity, I don't look to be able to create these things, but sometimes it kind of just happens. So for this particular reason, we were drawing this design out, and I noticed that one of the sections wasn't drawn all the way in. So basically I made it so that it looked like the goat was taking a bite out of the device. It just happened to work that way, but some of the stuff, like I said, just if I can hide it in there, it's kind of like an Easter egg for some of the people. Kind of funny to look at. The one on the left is what we've used in the past, is the historical adaptation, I believe, with an otter. And we put the cap of maintenance on there. She also has the castle or the work is actually something that is meaning to her. She also has an award that's Purple Lily. I think it's from the Outlands. And she's also makes mead for beer. So we did the hops. And we did she's also has a court baronetcy. So we can add these little things in there, and they don't really take up a lot of space or really blatant. So we're able to put them in and be able to add them without making it look too complicated. And I've noticed as I've been doing these classes that over the years I've actually changed how I do some things. This is someone who wanted, obviously wanted, I forget what they're called, martlets. They have martlets on their shields, so we made martlets hanging there. We try to make them not necessarily accurate, but we kind of try to mix the heraldic view of what a martlet is. So normally, if we would have not done this, they would have had, they would look normal, like normal birds with the legs and down, but kind of made them kind of different. The crossover between the heraldic and real ones, but they wanted castles, so it's a castle wall, banner on it. This is one for our fences of pelican. This one's pretty simple. As you can see, if you notice, the grass kind of changes over the years. If I would do grass, it never seems to be for me, grass and certain aspects of it. I've also done a couple phoenixes over the years, and they're all so unique. They're all different the way you do it. It's especially when you're doing like elementals, you can be so random on what they actually look like. We also run into sometimes when we're doing the drafts, it will be requested that they want a heraldic depiction of whatever animal it is. If not, we will try and choose something that's a little more, aesthetically, different. So sometimes they want the heraldic ones. And again, we're trying to figure out if I can manage it, depending on who we're doing it for. If it's a fighter, I will try do my best and make the helm their helm that they actually fight in, or their helm that they feel that their persona would actually fight in. So it depends. Here you can see what I've done is we've just done a white raven and a black raven. We just put clouds on the bottom. This is one of my first ones. This is really simple, and I've done, as you can see, I did multiple colors when it comes to the mantling. Yeah, that's one of the very first ones I ever did. We also do the trim around the banner in one of the colors of the device. Usually, if we can't pick, if it's just too much, sometimes we'll just pick black. But I actually do the dowel, I do the paint, I stain the pole, and I do the finials that are on the side. And I also do Kumuhimo cording in the colors of their device that hangs the whole banner up. For this one, the tiger represents his father, and the one on the left is represents his night before he got elevated. So this is one of our friends who got elevated to the knighthood. And the belts around the shield, as you can see. So I haven't really put anything else on there when it comes to knighthood yet, with like spurs or anything. Or we have done chains. So I haven't run into, we haven't done those too much, but we have done chains on occasion.
Raven, we've got
Yeah.
about 5 minutes left.
Okay. I will. Let me see if I can do that real quick. I just did one. I've done 2 of these scrolls in the past so far, and they we don't have any. We don't have a whole lot of guidelines in our kingdom of a specific. We used to. I mean, obviously, we have society ones that are we can't do. But when it comes to MOD, we really don't have, at least not yet, we don't have any specifics on some sure and what they can and cannot have. So so what I've been doing is I've been trying to add the color of the MOD. This is the one that just went out yesterday. He got elevated to the Masters of Defense on the field of War of the Phoenix that we have here in 80 belt. But what we have doing is we try and make sure that, just so there's no confusion, we really try and make sure it looks like it's a color of the state, or it's a they call it something different, livery collar. That's what it is, and make sure that it doesn't look like a belt. So we definitely try to do that. But like I said, in our kingdom, we don't have any right now. We don't have any. This is what they have to have or need to have on their full achievements. So I've been able to try and do my best to try and do that. So, but this is just one that I just did. So, but yeah, that's it for me. If you have any questions or anything, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure my my email is on the handout. Maybe I'll make sure that it is now, but the handout is I put into the chat. So for those of you who didn't come in, maybe there it is again in the chat. If you have any questions, hopefully the email's in there. If you have any questions or anything, you can contact me of what I do and how I do things. And as from a heraldic point of view, we're always, as any herald is does usually, is trying to encourage you to use your device or badge. So this is just another way of using it out there. Another way to show your what you have and what represents you. So, but I do hope it does. I've been able to show enough stuff that maybe hopefully inspires you to be able to do your own full achievement. So thank you.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to my class. I appreciate it very much.